In this video, we're going to be doing a deep dive on product detail pages. In particular, we're going to be looking at customizations and nuances that are really important for certain business types. We hope you get a lot out of this video for your specific business and your specific use case. We're going to go into really detailed examples, and I'm going to have a lot of screenshots that you can dive into. Let's get started. Okay, so just to kick things off here with a product detail page for an enterprise, B2B, B2C, D2C, you name it, C2C e-commerce, there are a lot of nuances that are specific to the use case. We're going to take a look at the baseline example and we're going to go through that pretty quickly, but then we're going to dive into specific use cases and what some of the nuances are that you ought to be looking for. And in particular, what the platform that you're working with ought to be able to handle as an off-the-shelf capability versus a major customization. Okay, let's get into it with the product detail page. Just kind of as a baseline, we always want to have some basic things within the product detail page. It's probably a good idea to assume that some of these things may not be there, and you do want to check and verify that they're available. The first thing is going to be your meta information. So this is going to be the meta title, the keywords, the description, and you're also going to want to look for schema information that should also be generated with the product detail page. Now, depending on your industry, there's specific schema that can be really helpful whenever this product detail page gets indexed. And then, of course, with the product detail page, we've got basic things like the name, the price. There may be tiered pricing, quantity-based discount, customer-specific discount levels. These things need to be included off the shelf. And there needs to be ideally some easy way to bulk upload or integrate to your back office system that is the source of truth for this data. In addition, it's also really important to have inventory information. We're going to go into an example later where we look at buy online, pick up in store, for example, or BOPIS. And we're also going to look at some other examples with specific inventory or possibly different variants, kits, things like this, customizations. So anyway, the point is you do want to have some detailed stock information. You want to have the ability for this to be sophisticated enough to represent the kind of fulfillment side of things where there might be multiple locations, there may be shipping differences, etc. We also want to have the SKU and the units, and there might be a lot more information specific to your business. These are just kind of standards that really should be there off the shelf. Of course, a description. Usually it makes sense to have a quick description or a summary, as well as a detailed description with rich HTML text, where there can be some pretty advanced presentation that can happen. In addition, it also makes sense to, of course, have product detail images. Now, these images need to be optimized so that they can be leveraged across the catalog system, across any kind of cart or checkout pages where there are thumbnails, and then the actual product details itself. It's really important that you be able to set these kind of once, upload them once, and ideally have the system auto-generate optimized images for you so you're not having to do this as a manual step. So you're going to want to check on that and make sure that that's something that's built in. In addition, it also makes sense to be able to organize these images and, of course, to include other media formats like videos, for example, possibly PDFs within this kind of filter and zoom capability. And then, of course, you want people to be able to zoom in, be able to present these images in different ways for your industry. Some industries, it makes sense to have kind of a horizontal scroll. Some, it makes sense to be more compelling with the imagery and maybe have a different format for presenting it. So the system needs to be able to adapt to that. In addition, you also want to have the ability to present kind of more detailed product information. So this is going to typically include media files like PDFs, maybe large downloads, maybe files that you don't want the end user to be able to download at all, but you want them to be able to view them on the site. So you might have PDFs that are view only, not downloadable, or images that are watermarked automatically and they're not downloadable. And then, of course, we need to be able to show related product information, for example, and potentially allow them to order in kits so they can order this product that they're on, but also additional items that are recommended. And we'll kind of go into more detail on these later. Whenever they're adding the item to their cart, they ought to be able to see the price increase if you want to kind of show them the price for selecting multiple options. And in most cases, it makes sense, depending on the business model, to at least have the opportunity to add things to a quote cart instead of a regular cart. With many businesses, this isn't a requirement, but if it is an option within your business, you're going to want to make sure this is included, that there actually is a quote card. We also recommend that there be the ability to have an add to compare, add to favorites, add to shopping list, and frankly, the list can go on. But these are some of the basics that really, really make sense for a user whenever they're navigating the site. Now, some of the other things that we typically recommend, we're going to kind of dive into next in a more detailed review of specific scenarios. Okay, so let's get into those now. Okay, so for this scenario, what we're going to be looking at is a bulk ordering situation and a scenario where we're trying to fill a container. Now, this is going to include some 3PL logistics integration so we can understand what the lead time and the cost is for fulfillment, in particular for containers that are being shipped intermodally. So that basically means that we're going to enable self service for a user that needs to be able to understand what the lead time and the cost is going to be for container intermodal shipments. This is pretty cool stuff. If you're a B2B type of manufacturer, you're operating in an enterprise level, this is a really important requirement depending on how your fulfillment is kind of conducted. And so in this particular case, you can see they have a very kind of standard presentation here at the top. But down at the bottom, they've got these really nice just kind of variations that are available, as well as stock information, and then notifications if the item is out of stock and they want to receive a notification when it's in stock, as well as the unit price. And in this particular use case, we also have the detailed customer specific pricing. There's a rewards program that is in play. And so whenever the customer purchases a certain amount within the year, they get rewards and they go into a discount tier within the e-commerce application. Now, this is all driven based on a source of truth of the ERP system. And this is a really nice integration overall to be able to kind of draw this customer data in for the end user and make it a self-service experience. And that's really the big takeaway here that we want you to get is how can I make sure my product details page allows my end user to have a fully self-service experience? So in this particular case, they can choose whether it's going to be from a warehouse or factory direct with their pricing. And they can also choose different quantities. And then they can see the impact on their container as they're building out their order. This is pretty cool because they're actually able to see if they need to add more items or if they're about to create another container essentially that needs to be used. And there's a lot of sophistication with the actual containers versus in this case, you can see they also have a warehouse where they can order from. Now, the price is going to be higher from the warehouse potentially, and possibly the lead time is going to be much shorter, just as an example. And then you can, of course, see the estimated shipping cost built in. Now, this is pretty interesting. Most of the time, you're not going to see this level of detail around fulfillment built into the product detail page. But for this particular customer, they needed this because their end customers really want to know about that while they're looking at a product on the product detail page. So this is an example where your e-commerce platform needs to be customizable and it needs to be modular enough that you can get access to these components without it costing a ridiculous amount to implement these capabilities. Okay, let's take a look at another use case next. Okay, so this is an interesting scenario. We have a fundraising site that has location specific customization to the products. And the product details allow for the end user to basically go in and change the actual product itself during the adding to the cart process. So here you can see I can select basic attributes of this product. I can see the front and the back in this particular case. And then I can zoom in, of course, and you can see, like I was talking about earlier, this kind of presentation is a little bit simpler and cleaner, and it's really driving the user toward this kind of configuration section that you see on the right. Now, once they've essentially selected the basics, they can also customize it. And here you can see they can add their name and their number. This is really cool to be able to do this, and it's all dynamic, and it's also going to adjust the pricing on the fly. So here you can see that the additional cost is shown, and then this is going to dynamically increase the cost on the product detail page. Now, this is really, really helpful. For this particular case, this product also has a sizing chart in addition to the product description. Now, one of the things that's really interesting about product detail pages is the template or the user experience needs to be adjustable per product type. So you could have product types driven off of subcategory, category, or just distinct product types that are within the system. This can be based on tagging. It really doesn't matter. The main point is that whatever taxonomy is a source of truth for the product detail page and what the template needs to look like, your e-commerce system needs to be able to handle that and be able to present in an intelligent way for the end user. Okay, so let's take a look at another example now. Okay, so this example is pretty interesting. The data on the product detail page is coming from an ERP system that manages the ordering that's possible in a dropship manner for a large franchise organization that this particular group serves. Now, this particular group provides apparel and attire for the employees at these literally thousands of franchise locations all over the US and beyond. Now, the ordering that's available here is the actual kind of franchise themselves can order different units, and they can order single or multiple, and they can get pricing discounts, of course, by ordering different quantities. They also have the option to choose different color swatches and sizes, and then accumulate the orders within the different sizes. So they can order multiples of different sizes easily here, and then they can view the sizing chart. Now, this is kind of interesting as well because these guys have a reviews option so they can see some of the detailed reviews. This is obviously a really important part for most product detail pages as well, is having a review area and the ability to filter the reviews based on the business unit or the division or the franchises can be really, really helpful as well. And so, honest, just kind of overall scale, this is a pretty simple page, but you can see it has some really nice features that are specific to this business. So, again, kind of one of the key takeaways that we have here is that the product detail page needs to be highly customizable, both in the UI and then within the functionality side of things, so that the end user has an optimized experience for their situation. Having just these little selectors and the quantity kind of change capability per product size, believe it or not, that can be pretty challenging for a lot of e-commerce systems. So you want to work with a system that has the ability to do these type of things really easily. Okay, let's take a look at another example now. Okay, so this is an interesting example that's in a much more kind of manufacturing, production of goods type of a space. In this particular space, we're looking at a plastic manufacturer who is offering their particular material and they're offering it in different output formats. Now, in a lot of cases for this use case, the end user is an engineer, or they may be, someone who's a very sophisticated user who needs to be able to go online and check for tolerances and the ability to customize and cater and possibly do machine work, milling, this kind of a thing, before the item is actually shipped out. So that, as you can imagine, is a pretty complex order. So how does your product detail page handle that? Well, the first thing is, depending on where someone is in the funnel, they may not be ready to actually purchase yet. So they may need to download information, share it with other folks within their organization. They may need to look at typical applications, just verify that they're actually purchasing the right type of product. Look at different trade names so they can see synonyms and kind of, you know, words that are used to describe this so they can share it with their organization, as well as safety data sheet and other detailed sheets that they can provide internally. Now, once they've decided that they're ready to order, then they need to be able to cater this particular order to their use case. So here you can see we have a variation selector, and this is essentially like a wizard that they can go through and complete these steps. Now, this is pretty cool. Whenever they change the selections, the images actually change to represent that. The other thing that's interesting is the selections below reflect the changes above in the different form. So for example, if it's a tube, we're going to show different selections of options or different options for them to select from rather, so they can set the specs of these items. For example, if it's an angle, we're going to show different spec sheet details that they're going to specify. So does your e-commerce platform have the ability to go in and make these changes to the process for variants and for specific product types? So one of the things that's really interesting about a lot of e-commerce platforms is you can customize them, but then you're kind of stuck with that for all of the products. So this is really interesting because we can customize the presentation to the end user for variants, but then if it's a different type of product, then we can show a standard presentation or a different customization of the presentation. Again, the other thing that we want to point out here is that we have a lot of options that are dynamic. So all of this data is feeding in from a backend ERP system dynamically using our integration platform. So another key question is, does your product detail page have the ability to get its data and bring it in a format that's consistent with an ERP? Is it well modeled so that it's actually robust enough and reflective of a typical manufacturing kind of inventory management and just overall ERP system that you're going to be using as you scale your business? In addition, does it have the ability to deal with multiple locations, multiple warehouses, different pick and pack systems and fulfillment processes, etc.? Without going into too much more detail, the other thing that these guys do is they actually go through a quoting process before they fulfill the item. So here you can see I have the option to get a quote, and in many cases, the item is possible to just purchase right away. But if it has certain criteria, then it's going to go through a quoting process so that someone can verify it before it actually gets fulfilled. This is just a quality control process that is heavily automated, and there are detailed workflows to help the end user at the company with fulfillment, as well as the customer, to get a very rapid fire, very virtually completely self service process as much as possible. Whenever you're doing quoting, whenever you're doing manual processes, we really want to make sure that they're completely optimized and there's a good expectation for what the timeline is going to be with those manual steps. Sometimes it's really important to have those, and this is a case where that can really be applicable. Think about it. If somebody's purchasing a $25,000 piece of plastic, then they probably want to make sure that it's all done right. And there may be a few little questions, a few little details that are really important to verify before it gets cut and manufactured and milled. And so this is an example where it makes sense to have just a basic manual process for one or two of the steps here for this product. Okay, let's keep looking at more examples now. Okay, so in this example, we are looking to purchase an item, the Porter Cable Impact Drill Driver Kit. And this particular kit is available in different stores. And we want to find out what the distance is away from us, and then what the availability is for today, and then the actual store hours so that we might be able to go pick that up. We can use the location lookup. We can also put in, address information, zip code, etc., and then do a radial search from that point on the map. And then we can get the list of available nearby stores and then select an item to buy online, pick up in store. It's also possible to do other things like buy online, have it shipped from the store, buy online, shipped from the warehouse to then pick up in store. And really, the list of variations goes on. Ultimately, we want to give the end user control so that they can make choices and self service as much as possible. The more self service that we can enable and the more data we can put at their fingertips with a ease of use that makes it match or rival the best of the best in the industry and the overall space of e-commerce, well, this is going to position your business to be able to grow rapidly from, yeah, as simple as a product detail page that's heavily optimized. Okay, so the main thing we wanted to show on this particular example is this is pretty interesting because we can request more info about this product. We can choose a variant from a variant dropdown list. And then we also have the ability to look at frequently purchased with in addition to popular. And this can be really helpful. And really, the list goes on. There are a lot of kind of options for components on this product detail page that includes reviews, the ability to look at media files, the advanced capability of looking at like a search history, recommended products. And this is showing popular products. So you've got popular, recommended, frequently purchased with. You can also show kits or upsells. And again, the list really does go on. We can even include kind of brand specific information or category, subcategory information into the product detail page. So the end user has the ability to kind of look at and compare items and compare criteria within this particular set of products or product types. This can be really helpful for the end user. And the big thing that we wanted to show here is that you can vary this and get into the details with our product detail page and really provide a lot of different options that match for your business. The other thing that we found is that most of our clients over time, they're going to make their product details more and more sophisticated. So you're going to want to work with a product, an e-commerce product that has the ability to cater and customize and really have these capabilities as turnkey off the shelf as you continue to scale your business. Okay, let's look at one more example here. Okay, so in this particular example, we also have a role estimator. So this particular customer, they have this roll of turf that someone can purchase, and we're showing a role estimator, and then they can essentially, based on the calculator, they can then generate a number of roles that they need, and then that will get added to their cart. Now, this is a pretty simple scenario. We've done a lot more sophisticated examples of wizards and calculators, including things like showing a visual of a design where they can drag and drop the product in. We've also done things like large file uploads that then get interrogated. The file itself gets interrogated, and using machine learning and other automation, we can determine a price for the data that they've uploaded. For example, for a visualization or a print, or possibly an engineering diagram, these type of things. Just keep in mind that the company itself, Clarity, is operated by engineers by trade and a lot of very sophisticated software developers. And we really enjoy getting into the weeds and customizing these product detail pages. And we've optimized the architecture so that we can leverage all of the experience that we put in. Literally a combined 400 plus years of experience within the software space, and literally 15 plus years of operating with our business, and literally billions and billions with a B of revenue processed through these product detail pages. And so ultimately, we're bringing all of this to bear on your project. And we really enjoy making these customizations and catering and fine tuning and doing it in a way that's reasonable from a cost perspective for your business so you can continue to grow. If you're interested in finding out more, please take a look at our complimentary discovery. We have an awesome complimentary discovery process that we offer. And we also have the ability for you to download and kind of get into more detail using some of our guides and our master classes and our resources on our site, on our YouTube channel, etc. Thanks for watching. If you would, hit the like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks again. Bye for now.